والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome anyone and everyone to today's webinar hosted by Ihsan Foundation for West Africa. I'm your host Bilal Asaqa. Our esteemed guest for today, may Allah bless him for carving out the time, is Imam Tariq El-Amin. He's the Imam at Masjid At-Taqwa in Chicago. He's a demon student. Just to clarify for those who don't know, demon, we are not talking about shaitan. Demon is an acronym. DMIN. See, husn al-dhan. Have a good opinion, people. Doctorate of Ministry. MashaAllah. So the exact opposite of anything satanic in nature is quite an angelic intention. He's a demon student. See, now we know. At Bayan. He also runs the American Muslim podcast for Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Please check it out. Please also check out Bayan on demand. It's definitely worth the subscription. You will get much more in return than you would have ever realized. I first learned about Bayan back in 2016, 2017, I think, through Bayan on demand, through the course that Dr. Sherman Jackson taught. What's the title? Islam in Black America?
Yeah.
Okay. Fascinating, phenomenal, in-depth, incredible. I mean, it was so rich. And then Allah opened doors. And now, alhamdulillah, I've been a master's student at Bayan in their MA program. So may Allah bless Dr. Sherman Jackson. May Allah bless Bayan on demand and bless Bayan as a whole, as an institution. The topic for today's webinar is the Chicago Black Muslim History Tour. So I'm going to hand over the mic to Imam Tariq, and then I'll pop in later for the dialogue, inshallah. Bismillah.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you, Imam Bilal, for the opportunity to spend some time and to share a bit about the Chicago Black Muslim History Tour. So again, assalamu alaikum to you all. It's always a pleasure to be speaking into the void. And I say that, you don't know if you have 1 or 100, but it really doesn't matter. It is a wonderful thing to be able to, as I said, to be able to share some information. So the Chicago Black Muslim History Tour was founded in 2022. And I think it's probably better to say that it was inspired, although I get my name is next to it in terms of, its origin, but it is really inspired by a lifetime of observation, of investment into me and many others that would actually make something like this, would bring it to the forefront as something that was a necessity to see a need for it. But I want to begin by first sharing a little bit about the tour. As I said, it was launched in 2022. And the focus of it is to preserve and to share the unique history of Black Muslims in Chicago, African-American Muslims. We have so many different ways that we relate to ourselves or see ourselves, but within the construct of, we know this very much sociologically and very much manufactured idea of race, right? Its utility is only in speaking the language of society and history as it relates to where we are. So we use this term, Black Muslims in Chicago, of course, African-American Muslims as well. And at one point we referred to ourselves as Bilalians. I may touch on that a bit as we move forward. But this tour, it's a biannual tour. We actually started as a biannual tour. And that means that we would have it the third Saturday of the month in February, Black History Month, and then we would also have it in Juneteenth weekend. And as we have continued to do it with the initial intent to offer it twice a year, it's been met with really wonderful response, so that we've now started to offer private tours, and those tours have been for schools, high schools, universities, and we're also starting to see more interest in terms of those who are in the political space, to give them a better understanding, better lay of the land, if you will, of this particular segment of the Chicago's Muslim community. All right. When I said that this is really through me, not from me. So the language founder is attached to me, but it's really something that I feel is that came through me, and it came through me by way of the environment that I had the blessing of coming through. And I'm a product of the Sister Clara Muhammad school system. For those who are not familiar with Sister Clara Muhammad really is the progenitor. She's one of the she's the really the starting point for private, uh, I'm sorry, for homeschooling here in the United States of America. Sister Claire Muhammad was the wife of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was the leader of the Nation of Islam. And we'll also parse that out a bit as well, who was succeeded in 1975 upon his death by his son, Imam Warathdin Muhammad. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is to the left, and Imam Warathdin Muhammad is to right, holding the flag, which was really significant in terms of the direction of this particular organization and how it has evolved in a number of ways. First, beginning as one that was very much the term "do for self," the term "separatist" was applied to the organization. It was applied to those who wanted to kind of cordon themselves off and get themselves together. Look at what talents they had, what challenges they had, and see how could they cooperatively and communally address those things. Uh, so that would be some of the ways that were looked at under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It was an organization that did not, the individuals did not vote at that time, although there was really behind the scenes, there was this organization and under his leadership played a tremendous role in the civil rights movement, in the march for freedom, for justice, uh, for oppressed peoples, not just black folk, but for oppressed peoples. Period. Anybody who was non-white. There was a lot that happened that actually comes to light in this tour, like some of the historical figures that people are familiar with. Of course, Dr. Martin Luther King, um, um, Fannie, I think Fannie Lou Hamer, but there are many notables that had direct communication that came to Chicago to sit to seek counsel and for support. So while a there was not a big push for political engagement, there was strategic involvement and cooperation with regard to those of us who were uh, attempting to impact, right? Impact or negotiate the social political space. So, and to the right, Imam Warathdin Muhammad, as I said, he succeeded him. He was elected to the leadership position of the Nation of Islam in 1975, upon which he oversaw the really within the history of the United States of America, it was the largest conversion, transition of believers, of followers into Orthodox slash Sunni Islam. So the organization went from the Nation of Islam to the World Community of Al Islam in the West. There were a few other iterations in terms of names as the identities were um, being, evolved and understood. There was the Muslim American Mission, the American Muslim Society, and it may have been a few more, but the main point was, whereas before there was this idea of we will maybe offer some advice or we will speak to the people in such a way as to affect the sensibilities and really try to get folks to raise themselves up, right? Adopt a higher emotional and moral and intellectual stance. Uh, it moved to what this image, I believe it conveys, it captures, it moves to this idea of picking up the American flag. As a matter of fact, Imam Warathdin Muhammad, he said, if none of you are willing to pick up this flag, I'll pick it up, right? And that was also a part of moving the community away from this idea of being a counterculture to being a counterculture force to being one that was embedded in moving the culture along towards the best of its possibilities, the best of its potentialities. And that came along with this idea that we were responsible for this nation, for its success, for its health, for its well-being, and that it would not do for us to simply offer critiques without offering corrections. So this is what this picture represents. So that's a part of the evolutionary arc of this community that dates back to 1930 in Detroit and 1934 in Chicago. All right. So really quickly about me, Imam Bilal mentioned that I'm the host, creator and host of the American Muslim podcast, which is presented by Bayan on Demand. And one of the focuses there is to highlight the different ways that Muslims in America are impacting the public space, not just what they're doing for their communities, but how their work is lifting up, how it's impacting the communities around them. So irrespective of faith tradition, political affiliation, etc. So that's a weekly program. You can find that wherever you get your podcast. And before I served as the host and producer on a daily basis for Radio Islam, where I had the opportunity to talk to folks from just about every stripe, scholars, activists, um, elected officials, educators, and so on and so forth. So all of that simply to say that the importance of chronicling stories, the importance of putting different experiences in front of people and knowing that it has an impact, that people would come back often after listening to an interview or whether it was a live broadcast and commenting how it was it was it was a blessing to be able to hear from folks that they might otherwise not have been able to engage with. So that has kind of leaked over or into the Chicago Black Muslim History Tour. At its core, really is an opportunity to tell a story and to tell a story about a group that folks might not really be they're aware of, right? It's something actually that Dr. Camila Movement Oseguera, she's also a faculty at Bayan Islamic Graduate School and Chicago Theological Seminary. And she's done studies. As a matter of fact, there's a project right now, the Day of Learning Project, where it goes through Black Christian views of Muslims. And one of the things that we found, number one, was that Black Christians associate Black Muslims with when they think about Islam, right? So for their particular experience, Black Muslims, that's who they identify with. Now, the thing that's really also notable in this is that there is a high familiarity, but a low knowledge factor, right? So that means that they might be able to go out and they could recognize, oh, that brother right there is Muslim, right? Whether he might have on, a kufi, he might have on a thobe, or he might be one of the brothers that is associated with many folks when they think about the term Black Muslim, suit and tie, a bow tie, right? So from a the eye test within this particular community is one where they say, oh, I can identify. But when you ask them, well, what do Muslims believe? Right? What are the articles of faith? What is Tawheed? What is, you start going through the list of things. Who is Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? These are things that they don't know. So there's a high familiarity, but low knowledge. And what I also realize is that phenomenon, it was not something that was exclusive to the Black Christian community. That when I looked at the Black Muslim community kind of writ large, that there was a familiarity, but also there was a low element of knowledge. Now, Chicagoland is home to over 400,000 Muslims, as you see right here on the screen. So in Chicago, when you come here, no one has a monopoly on the public presentation of Islam, right? Which is a beautiful thing, right? Allah says that He's created us, with the distinctions, right? Says if I wanted to create you all as one nation, right, then I could have done so. As one people, I could have done so. And He also tells us that He's created us with these differences that we would be able to know one another, not for us to despise one another. So this idea of knowing means that we don't try to cover up the distinctions. We don't try to act as if we all have the same cultural backgrounds or understandings, but it is to understand those backgrounds. It is for us to understand how they come together and impact us in the public space. And hopefully we can find some beauty in understanding those distinctions. So since there's such a huge there's a fairly large community here, we said, how do we fit into here? How do we fit into this? Now we recognize that the community of Imam Muhammad, which I say, which goes back to at one point it was called the Nation of Islam. I'm not going to, I'm sort of teasing here. I'm not going to get into the we'll just say this for those who are students who know that the Nation of Islam was restarted in 1977, right? As you know it today. The seamless the timeline of its development without break, it goes from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to Imam Warthi Muhammad, right? And then we found ourselves with um, a decentralized model where we are still tethered, to one another through, annual events, through communal efforts that we have, still a very tight organization, but each individual masjid would have responsibility for its own affairs, right? So it's not a top down type of model. So as I said, so people might look at this and say, well, what is the impact? What's the place? And he said, well, there's been a whole lot that has happened since 1933 here in Chicago, 1934 here in Chicago. And you can see the evidence of that, in the history books, but also even in some of the things that we look at today. So the tour is an opportunity for us to kind of retrace those steps and to see how we have come to the point we are today, where we can look at some of the things that we see now. You'll see it on the upcoming slide, like the Salam Community Wellness Center, which is a direct, it's a direct product, it's a direct result of both leaders. One who had a focus on much like Booker T. Washington and to some degree Marcus Garvey, right? Of a do for self, right? Of using what you have for your own benefit, for your own edification, for your life. And the other had brought us to a point where we're able to see ourselves beyond understanding the distinctions of our own culture and history, but also seeing ourselves as very much a part of the human family, seeing ourselves integrated and not assimilated, right? And without fear of losing ourselves. So the tour, as I said, it goes on to highlight the social, moral, economic, and intellectual legacies that this community has represented. So some of the highlights that folks would see on the tour. I'll start with Masjid al-Taqwa. So I've served as the Imam of Masjid al-Taqwa since 2013. Prior to that, from 2000 to 2013, we had been moving around from place to place, we renting or leasing. And for maybe prior to in 2019, we bought a place. We found it used to be an animal hospital and I'm trying to think, like a boarding, like people leave and they leave their dogs or cats or whatever, and they board them, they keep them until they come back. So we had to go in, we bought the place, we had to basically rip it down to the studs. We had to have all all the ventilation vacuumed out, because when you have a pet smell, that is really in there. So we had to basically break it down to the studs. Now, I'm mentioning that for this reason. 1934, when uh, the Nation of Islam moved its headquarters from Detroit to Chicago, the first place that was used as before we were using the language of masjids, right? They were referred to as temples. The first temple was it had also been an animal hospital or a dog hospital, something of that nature. So we thought it was interesting and a bit of a sign we took from it to say that sometimes these things they come full circle. Is that we found ourselves also in our first efforts at ownership, right? Almost walking in the same path that our predecessors had, almost 100 years ago. Yeah, but like 80 some odd years ago, right? So the tour begins at Taqwa. So at Masjid al-Taqwa, and we talk about uh, this community. We talk about that similarity, how we've kind of brought things full circle to a degree. And from there, we visit some of the early Muslim-owned institutions. Guarantee Bank, which was owned by the Nation of Islam, had a major stake of ownership, which is on in Chicago. For those who might be familiar with the Chicago landscape, right on in 67th and Stony Island, there were a number of bakeries and clothing shops, and there was a lamb packing slaughterhouse. There was the print press for, at the time, it was Muhammad Speaks, which would later on become the Muslim Journal, which is still in production today under the capable stewardship of Sister Aisha K. Mustafa, where I happen to be now. She's Jackson, Mississippi. I'm here in New Medina, Mississippi, joining you all right now. Where am I going? Oh, okay. So we have really turned this into an opportunity for people who have experienced, who've come through what we refer to as their first experience, where it was very much more rooted in, and that's under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, where the public profession of Islam, when I mentioned before that there's a high familiarity but low knowledge index, that was also present then. So Muslims at that point were not judged from an orthodoxy standpoint. They were not judged from a theological standpoint. Muslims were judged by according or known through their principles, right? They were known by the principles that they established in the public space. And that's what drew people to folks like Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, right? El-Hajj Malik Shabazz. These were people who exhibited a personality and a character type that would be associated with Muslims, with Islam, without people having a second thought or concern about theology, right? These are conversations that we have within the Ummah ourselves, for those who understand these things, who understand Aqidah, who understand, the Islamic sciences, who just have a basic framework of understanding of what it means to be Muslim, of La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, right? But as it relates to the public space, right, dealing with a majority non-Muslim people, it was the history of Muslims in America was very much rooted in principle. It was rooted in what we portrayed and what we brought into the public space, and how we made folks who looked at themselves to be maybe at a deficit, right, who saw their lives not being not bearing the marks of fulfillment that they felt on the inside, like, things should be better, right? And what can I do? And they heard voices telling them to look inward, right? To see your own value, to stand up. You are better than this, right? Really speaking a lot of the things that we understand when Allah, we understand Allah tells us that, He's created us with, with an inherent dignity, right? An excellent mode. Um, these are things that were communicated through personal example and conviction, and not just from people that they knew, those who had a microphone, but by seeing people transformed around them. They saw like a transformation of principle and character. So that's one of the things that we're able to tap into, because we have people who are on board as not just partners, but also the tour presenters. And I think I do have a few in here. So the left, bottom left is Brother Clyde El-Amin. No, no blood relation, but he actually was my principal when I was a student at Sister Claire Muhammad School, and then he went on. He's also the former president of Kennedy King College here, one of the city colleges of Chicago, and just a kind of a well-known nonprofit leader. And then next to him, the next picture over, and forgive me for not having a pointer, but the two brothers that you see, the one that's sitting down is Imam Rabbani Mubashir. Um, he and Brother Clyde, these are two brothers who came in to the nation in these, I think, the early 60s, and then went on to support the leadership of Imam Warthadi Muhammad. Brother Amir Muhammad, the one that is standing up, he's actually the grandson of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and who also again continued with that type, I guess you can call it a matriculation or evolution, um, understanding and embracing the teaching and logic and direction of Imam Warthi Muhammad, who directed, to Quran and Sunnah and what we understand to be normative. And then there is our brother Bashir Assad, who was, we call him our historian. And he's, how old is Brother Bashir? Brother Bashir is 81. Yeah, 81. And you never know it. The energy that these brothers have, they come from a period of time where the objective was, or the directive was, do not leave your post until properly relieved. And so he's still on post. He's still doing security. He's still doing dawah. He's a major voice and asset for the tour. So people get to hear on this tour, they get to hear from folks who had firsthand knowledge, who were able to look at not just their own development, but they were able to look at and see, what did that look like for the neighborhoods that we were in? What did it look like for, as we moved around the country? Because this was, for all intents and purposes, it had the distinction of being headquarters, for many, many years. So Chicago has this, in the heart, it has a special place in the hearts of our community. And many folks that are spread out around the country now, they either lived here or started here. All right. So, and these are not all of the individuals. There's, I wanted to give her due. We have Sister Latifa Wangara, who's also a tour presenter, and Brother Roderick Bashir, who's a former elected official in the village of Hazelcrest, serving as a trustee there, where he also was instrumental. I don't know if I took a picture of it or not, but he was also instrumental in getting Imam Warthi Muhammad Day passed on the books in the village of Hazelcrest. So they're great supporters of his work and what he represented, and what really I believe this tour is also an extension of. It is kind of opening our arms, telling our story, and showing how it is relative, not just for us, but it is an added benefit for society at large, and it shows, as I said, some of the, some of what makes this particular community distinct in this sea of diversity, beautiful diversity that we have. We collaborate with partners like Sajda House. I believe I've got her on the next slide. And the kind of the day-to-day, the operations, after this idea came into being and, organized, as administered with between myself and my wife, Dr. Aisha El-Amin. Oh, I don't have a picture of her. Okay. So one of the things that we try to impress is the same way that wherever we find ourselves as Muslims in the world, we all lay claim to the Islamic history, right? To the history that produced this ummah, right? We lay claim to a history that goes beyond the phenotypical distinctions that we might think that define us, right? As a Black person, a white person, you know, as a Desi, as an Arab, as an Asian, however we think we want to define ourselves, we lay claim to that history collectively. And we want to also present this history in particular for those of us here in America, that Black Muslim history is a part of American history. It's a part of American Muslim history. And that this is also history that if you're a Muslim here, that you should feel comfortable laying claim to and understand what it meant. And again, to understand the distinction that I hope I made, because I kind of honed in on it a little bit, to understand the distinction between at the particular time as we went from 1934, what it looked like in America for this particular group of people, for Black folks, particularly in the South, not just in the South, in the North as well. It's just, as a matter of fact, Dr. King said when he came up here in the late 60s, and was pelted. And when he left out here, he says, I've never seen racism like that, right? And you would almost like do a double take, because we had this idea, this image of the racism in the South chronicled by, folks like Ida B. Wells, who chronicled, I think it was over 4,000 lynchings. The Ku Klux Klan, the white supremacist groups, the violence, the terror. And for him, for all of us in the South, for him to come up north and say, I've never seen racism like this, right? So it's important to understand the development of a community in that type of environment. And so I think context helps us to really understand, and at least to, I think it helps us. It informs the decision that we might come to. But Allahu Alam, Allah is the best knower, and we celebrate the growth, and we celebrate the intent to bring people up, to uplift people, and to give something that really did not require an explanation, and that is a principled posture, right? Good character. To give that to people, you don't have to give people an explanation for that, right? People recognize that it resonates with people. And then we got to a point where we started, we want to know more, right? And we were at the appropriate time, Allah blessed us in this particular segment of the community to enter into that through that door, and gaining understanding and growing. So there are a lot of storylines that are part of the tour, and some of them come directly from the tour presenters. Some are embedded in the spaces that we visit, and some of it really comes from the reflection of the tour attendees, right? Because they bring something to it as well. So I will stop right there and say that for those who are interested, like I said, we do two of them that are definitely on the books, and then we have the private ones we do that aren't publicized. But our next one is going to be Juneteenth weekend. But if you're interested in booking a private group experience, or if you want to become a partner, or you want to, sponsor anything like that, you can send us an email at Chicago Chicago Masjid Taqwa at gmail.com, or reach out to me. You can find me on social media at Imam Tariq El-Amin. So, if there are any questions I am or comments, I would love to receive them.
Jazakallah khair for the time, Imam Tariq. May Allah bless you. May Allah bless your wife. May Allah bless your community. Thank you for the time. You mentioned you're in Jackson, Mississippi, which is not Chicago. So, so you have found a way to make it work for you to tune in today. Jazakallah khair. May Allah accept the good intentions. Um, I out of curiosity, I so this is kind of like asking a parent to pick which one is their favorite kid or grandparent. Who's your favorite grandchild? It's like, I mean, so with that understanding, is there a part of the tour? Do you have like a favorite part of it? It's all phenomenal. I
Mm.
love to go on it one day. But is there a specific part that maybe extra
Well,
special?
uh, you know what? I would get in trouble if I was to say one. I'll say that there are many great points of interest, right? I
Yeah.
take particular I take particular joy in being able to present how our community has established this humble space that alhamdulillah that we own, and how it was, we show the pictures as a community effort, right? Folks came in every weekend for like a year, volunteering to do all of the work, and we had other folks do, certain parts of it. But the community building aspect, reliving that and showing that to people, that's really my favorite, one of my favorite parts. As far as like some of the destinations, I know we get great responses. The home that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that he owned, um, in the Woodlawn area, it was actually owned originally by, if folks are familiar with the Libby's juice,
Mm,
it was owned by that family. The home went into disrepair. There's a bunch of stuff we got to kind of move over. We don't really have time to get into here, but the home went into disrepair, and it came back on the market. The sister Sajda Muhammad, she purchased the home. She has painstakingly restored it, not renovated, but restored it. So back to its original
mm,
condition. And so I believe it's a national or it's a historical monument within the city. Um, and she, as a historian, is absolutely fantastic. The stories that she's able to tell you about the house, the different rooms, things that happened,
mm,
the notable folks that came and visited, the conversations with neighbors that were, that Chicagoans would in particular would be aware of. I don't know how many folks that are listening and with us right now who may join later who know who Lou Rawls was, right? But he used to be his, the neighbor. Um, but her ability to share, um, it's tremendously inspiring. Dr. Constance Shabazz, the work that she's doing with Salam Community Wellness Center. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted to establish a hospital on the south side of Chicago, right? And we talk about comorbidities and how race plays a factor in
mm,
health disparities.
mhm,
Uh, he was ahead of the game, and okay, well, we got to do something to address that. What Dr. Constance Shabazz has done I believe she's in the Grand Crossing area, but right off of 69th and Cottage or 67th Cottage, providing holistic healthcare. And she's been an innovator in the healthcare field for many, many years. Uh, it's tremendously exciting because it goes back to this idea of do for self, but not just do for self, but do for those who can't do for themselves
mm,
as well, right? So I really get I get excited throughout the whole thing, listening to the folks who have lived that history, right? Who who are really walking libraries. So it's a very personal thing for me. Um, as I say, as a product of the Sister Clara Muhammad school system,
Mhm.
I know it does even me saying that does not really convey the depth of what that actually means,
Mhm.
of what was put into me that makes something like this so so meaningful, so important.
Mm. There are many ideas that come to mind, but the two that I'll highlight, um, one, so I'm just thinking out loud here. We can brainstorm offline, but I think it would be phenomenal if at some point the details can be worked out. I know they're important, but it starts with a big intention. It starts with Iqra, and then it evolves.
Mhm.
I think it'd be really cool if we could find a way to connect, especially the Black Muslim community in America with West Africa somehow through Ihsan. Whether it's
Mm,
tours, if it's trips, if it's, I don't know the details yet. Um, but that may, I think that would be re really powerful in many ways,
mm,
beneficial. Um, and then I mean, there can be different ways of doing things. It wouldn't even have to be obviously limited just to the Black Muslim community in America. It can be open to whoever's interested. But just this idea, and I'm pulling this idea from the founder of Ihsan, Dr. Ahmed Ben Gura himself.
mhm,
So he's mentioned this idea over the last couple of years of building these bridges across the Atlantic. He's originally from Sierra Leone.
mhm,
He did his PhD in Canada. He was a professor at University of San Francisco for many years. I want to say over 20 years.
mhm,
Uh, and he's retired now, and Ihsan is his brainchild and his main uh, focus, you could say. But that's one branch of an idea,
mhm,
um, especially because you have experience with the nuts and bolts of putting together a tour and different things to consider. And I think one thing in general, when it comes to uh, the idea of expertise in the Muslim community in America, I think we need to give it more gravity, give it more weight. I think it needs to be appreciated more in any field.
mhm,
If we appreciate it in medicine and engineering, cool. What about Dean? What about art? What about movie making? All these things.
mhm,
So I think your expertise is extremely rich and valuable, especially because it tethers the theoretical and especially the practical seamlessly, which is
mhm.
really beautiful.
Okay.
Um, the second idea is Imam Shane Atkinson, who I was just talking to a few days ago. Good people, mashallah.
I can't get a hold of him. I've been trying to reach him.
I'll be your
Put a word in for me.
Shane. So
Yeah.
what you got to do, message on Instagram
Mhm.
about dhikr beads, and then go
Ah.
there. Um, so you know about the what's it called? The short or the documentary Redneck Muslim.
Yes, yes.
I think it would be phenomenal. Again, expertise, experience. I would love to. I wouldn't mind reaching out to ask him this myself to find a way to try to facilitate communication between the two of you guys, maybe between the three of us. Allahu alam. I think
Mhm.
it would be really cool because that was who made it? PBS. I think it was PBS.
It
I'd have to
certainly
double
sounds like
check.
something will be up their lane.
It's yeah.
It was
So
good.
in terms of it was professionally done, the
Yeah.
caliber, the all of the above, I think it
Hmm.
would be really cool if there would be the same type of idea
Hmm.
following you and somehow connecting it with this tour, connecting it with the history. I'm just thinking out loud here, but we can inshallah brainstorm and parse the the details offline. But um,
Hmm.
the fact that this is something that's already happening, it's already occurring, and then like I'm on the West Coast. I'm in California.
Mhm.
I know I'll pop in, periodically for Bayan, but when
Yeah.
you're in Chicago for Bayan, you're in Chicago for
For a
Bayan.
band. Right, right.
You're, you're those 5 hour classes are, at least for the master's program. I don't know how long they are for
They
the
same amount.
5 hours.
Yeah. Fortunately, we've only had one class the last semester, last
Mhm.
term. So yeah, 5 hours is better than 10 hours.
That's true.
Yeah.
Um, but so from obviously, I'll remove myself from the situation. I'm just giving it as an example. um, if someone's in California, if someone's in New York and they hear about it and they're curious, I love
Mhm.
history. I've come to appreciate history more and more and more over time.
Mhm.
Architecture, more and more over time. Symbolism, all these different things. Um, it would be really, so it may bring it to the masses if somehow there was a documentary made, some kind of video. Um, Allahu alam. I know I'm kind of brainstorming on the fly here, but
I like
I'm
it.
just thinking how can more people, um for anything, it's never the same when it's in person as opposed to virtual,
Right.
right? The 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 good vibes, the nur that I feel when I'm next to you in person is
Mhm.
different than through Zoom. Zoom is cool, but but it could be something. Um at any thoughts, any, gears turning?
Um, First of all, alhamdulillah, I'm always glad to think about and explore how can we connect in ways that, make us stronger, right? Um, and if there's a way, and I have watched, some of Imam Shane's, I think it was an interview. No, it wasn't that interview. He was doing salawat, right? But doing it
Mhm.
with kind of a southern,
Yeah,
you
Southern
know,
Solo.
and I
Yeah,
said, man, I was like, that's dope. That's dope.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and it's funny because I'm doing some similar things like that, but kind of reaching more into kind of the gospel tradition.
Hmm.
Um, and what you're talking about, well, not even just here, I'm talking about West Africa, alhamdulillah, I was able to spend a little bit of time in Senegal.
Hmm.
Um, and there's so much I don't know, right? Then, and I don't necessarily have um, um, deep connections, right? So if there is an opportunity for us to forge new connections, um, what I would add to it is I would love to know, like, if there's a way for us to share history,
Hmm.
right? Not just, I don't want to for it to just be a situation where somebody's just consuming.
Mm.
It's like, okay, look, I would love to share this with you. This is a part of our experience, and this is the context that these things have taken shape in.
Hmm.
Now, now tell me about yours, because one of the things that I tell folks is particularly within our association, but I think it's true for any community, is
Hmm.
that you should be chronicling your history. The
Hmm.
more diversity we have, the more, right, we have all these different expressions and understandings and flavors that we bring to this unified and central, truth. Um, it's important for us to know how these communities have formed.
Hmm.
I think there's value in that. So I encourage, I know it's a bit off topic with what you're mentioning, but I encourage everybody, right? You should have a masjid historian.
Hmm.
You should have a committee. And then when you get to the point you're able to start sharing that information in a kind of a collective setting, there's like kind of comparing notes.
Hmm.
Um, and what did they say? Success leaves clues, you
Hmm.
know. And that's also something that we give for future generations. But more to your point, I am certainly open to having some discussion. I know we have more ideas than we have capacity,
Hmm.
but because I believe we have the inshallah, I believe we have the right intentions.
Hmm.
Allah will give us the vehicle to achieve our intentions.
Mm,
despite how busy we may think we are.
mm.
So, all that to say is I'm with it. Let's
Yeah.
let's let's have some talk. Let's get Imam Shane in. Let's see. I would love to know more
Mm,
about Ihsan Foundation. I mean, I minimally I know, kind of like some, high level, not high level, um,
kind of
but
a
in
general,
depth. Yeah, yeah,
right.
kind of in general. But like I should know. I need to know more, right? I should to be able to, at the very least, people can't really pray for you,
Mm,
right, if they don't know you. Right. They
mm,
can do it in a real general sense, but our intentions, when they're
mm.
attached to some knowledge, right? So I need to know more so I can specifically pray, man, may Allah bless him, man, Bilal, give him that administrative assistant he's been looking for, you know, you know, help out this halakha group that he got, or, whatever it is,
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
um, but I'm with it. I'm with it.
mashallah. And I'll also work on connecting you with Dr. Ahmed Ben Gura.
Oh,
Uh,
wonderful, wonderful.
Jazakumullah khair. I appreciate. That's why I thought I would mention it in the moment.
Yeah.
Um, to in a small way, but nonetheless to strike while the iron is hot, while it's on our minds. The
Yeah, yeah.
idea is there, and um, may, yeah, Fatah, may Allah open doors, may Allah facilitate things.
I mean,
To Before I ask you to briefly plug the American Muslim podcast before we conclude, I do want to encourage folks to check out the Ihsan Foundation website, ihsanfoundation.org. Ihsan has been around since 1996. It is a 501c3 certified nonprofit organization in the US. There are a range of projects from uh, farmers assistance, economic empowerment. You can give someone a fish, and there's good in that, but what we want to prioritize more is teaching people how to fish, giving them the tools they need to fish, so on and so forth. So there are projects related to that, related to education. We're building a hospital in Sierra Leone. There are three hospitals in a country of 8 million people, Sierra Leone. 80% roughly are Muslim. There are three hospitals in the country. Ihsan is building the fourth, and it's funded by private donations, as opposed to, say, foreign government entities, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of barakah when the contributions come from the people, for the people, by the people. Um, I kind of butchered the line, for the people, by the people. There you go. So I'm gonna just go in my time machine, go back and delete those 3.5 seconds. But alhamdulillah, we we do what we can.
that's right.
So I do encourage folks to stop by and donate. I gave the khutbah yesterday at Stanford University. May Allah bless Dr. Amina Darwish for facilitating that.
I mean,
She's been to West Africa herself in person. She's been impressed by the work. She loves the work and the organization, mashallah. Um, the fundraising yesterday was for the hospital, and then especially for the doors for the hospital. These things
mm,
aren't free. So when you're building something from scratch, from the ground up, you factor in every cost that comes up along the way. So if people want to stop by the website, give whatever you can to sponsor some of the doors. 4K in totals needed for that. Um, so every little contribution goes a long way. Obviously, bigger contributions, we ask Allah for barakah no matter what the quantity is. May Allah accept it uh, so long as we're doing it with good quality intentions of ihsan, may Allah accept it. With that being said, do you
I
want
mean.
to, you know, conclude by mentioning your podcast?
Yes, thank you so much, man. So the American Muslim Podcast, as I said, is presented by Bayan on Demand. I host and produce it. We upload a new episode every Friday. We encourage you to listen, to share, subscribe. You can get it basically just about any place that you get a podcast. So if that's, Spotify or Apple or, Amazon, wherever. So we're there. The next thing I would like to encourage you to do, and Imam Bilal mentioned this a bit as well. There are two things that I always ask in every every episode at the very end, right? So it's very soft sell, right? Really, we're talking about the journeys of different leaders and however they serve, right? Whether they're an imam, a chaplain, a weekend school principal, an artist, whatever, right? We talk about their journey, what have been the formative experiences that they've had, the people, the mentors, things like that that have affected their trajectory. And then we do a soft ask really about their experience at Bayan because a lot of these guests have an association with Bayan. Not all of them, but most of them. But what we remind people is, as an institution, Bayan Islamic Graduate School is committed to offering a high quality, world-class Islamic education. And the majority of our students, over 70% of our students, are scholarship recipients. So we ask if you find value in these stories, if you find value in this mission, to support these individuals who are already supporting community life, right? Supporting our communities. And you can do that by making a donation to the Muhammad Ali Scholarship. So you can go to bayanonline.org and make a donation to the Muhammad Ali Scholarship. And the last thing is, if you're intrigued by what you're hearing, right? If you are a learner, right? And this is something, as Muslims, I think, which really does distinguish us, this relationship that we have with knowledge, right? Amal and ilm, right? You flip them up, right? Work and knowledge, right? They're right next to each other, right? So if you're thinking about how do I increase my knowledge, how do I go into these different, these vast oceans that are in front of me, and not do it in a way we just jumping in a pool by yourself, right? You can do it in a way by going to bayanonline.org and getting yourself an all access pass to Bayan on demand. It's $10 a month. We have 32 classes on there right now, and we're continuing to add more classes. So Imam Bilal mentioned that one of those classes, Islam in America or Islam in Black America by Dr. Sherman Jackson. And we have a whole lot of, just a whole list, the A list of professors and practitioners that are teaching classes, and it's on an app on your phone, $10 a month. And you can go into it as quickly or as slowly as you want to. So subscribe, share, and consider supporting in either of those ways. So thank you so much for the opportunity and for the opportunity to throw that plug out there.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah
Welcome. I
khair.
appreciate you, beloved.
Kof, check out the episode where yours
That's
truly was.
right. That's right. Matter of fact, I just posted that this week, right? Like in
Yeah,
case you missed it,
yeah.
Imam Bilal was on there, and as you were talking, a lot of stuff started coming back to me. I remember you talking about the hospital,
Mhm.
and yeah, so you do a phenomenal work. It was such a pleasure to have you on, and just kind of get a feel, just in passing. I'll say this really quickly, even without having a conversation. Just as we were passing each other, at Chicago Theological, right, doing the intensives,
Mhm.
I felt that good energy, you know, and
I mean, you got on.
alhamdulillah, my cousin ran into you at the
Yeah,
masjid,
yeah.
Kian Bismillah, and he um he told me he
In
ran into you.
in San Ramon.
Yes, he is.
San
Yes, he
Ramon.
is.
Yeah,
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 yeah. MashaAllah.
yeah,
I saw him with it was like a jacket with a quarter zip, and it had a logo on one side, and it said Bismillah. So he stopped by the Ihsan table after Jummah
yeah.
uh, at the San Ramon Masjid, and I asked him like, that's a really cool jacket. Is that a brand? Is that He was like, no, that's my last name. I said, no way. He said, yeah, this is my full name. This is my last name. I
Right.
said, okay, mashallah. And we, mashallah, good vibes, good people, mashallah. May Allah bless you and your family, you and your extended family. May Allah accept all of
I
your
mean,
efforts. May Allah gather us with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in paradise.
so,
Ameen
so,
Rabbil Alameen. We'll
I
go
mean,
ahead and wrap up. Again, thank you very much for the time amidst an extremely busy schedule. May Allah bless your time always.
and
Subhanakallahumma wa
you.
bihamdika. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
I mean, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.